Last week, they dropped episodes 5 and 6 of Daredevil Season 4, or Daredevil Born Again, whatever you want to call it. This is just the 4th season of Daredevil, so that's what I'm saying. And in the beginning of this show coming out, I talked about how I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes, but I really hope they didn't spend too much time on the reluctant hero story arc where he doesn't want to be Daredevil, because I hate it. And it's lazy and uninspired, and I'm so sick of watching superhero movies where they don't want to be superheroes. Like, I'm not paying a ticket to come and watch people sulk about their life for an hour and a half, only for the last half hour for them to be like, all right, well, let's put the costume back on because we give in and get back to kicking ass. It's like, no, I pay money because I want to watch the superhero being the superhero in the costume, beating up bad guys. I want to see the comic panels come to life in front of my eyes, in front of me in live action. And I was a little skeptical going into Daredevil after episode 1 and 2, because again, that was the story arc they were following, and I talked about how I was going to be very disappointed if that continued. And continued it did, all the way through episode 3, and all the way through episode 4, and all the way through episode 5, and all the way through episode 6. But at the end of episode 6, the last 10 minutes, he says, fuck it, throws the suit back on, and goes to have a throwdown with Muse. And it was fucking awesome, and almost made up for the rest of the show. Now, the thing that the show has going for me is, thank God it had a very compelling story. It had a very strong start with Foggy dying by Bullseye, and setting Matt on a path of wanting to believe that the law is capable enough of taking matters into their own hands, and he doesn't need to be a vigilante anymore. He just wanted to step aside, live his life, meet a girl, be a good friend to Karen when she's willing to be a good friend to him, and not go out in the middle of the night and pummel bad guys to a pulp anymore. And I really enjoyed the lawyer aspects of it, and if that didn't work, then I would have really hated this show up until season 6. But the show's doing a great job at putting Matt into situations where it's just really compelling. Everything that happened with the White Tiger I thought was really well done and really tense, and it really makes you kind of hate the city that Matt Murdock lives in and hate the cops. Not all of them, but at least the cops of that version of Hell's Kitchen. I don't hate cops in real life. One of my best friends is a cop, and this show definitely paints cops in a bad picture that isn't realistic in real life. But for the sake of the show, they make you really hate them, and they make you really root for Matt here. And then everything happening with Fisk, with him becoming mayor and genuinely trying to do the right thing and not give in to his violent tendencies, and see him go through strokes of life where people just hate his guts and do not accept him as mayor, even though he is now in fact their mayor. And the show, that's the second thing that the show does really well, is the duality between the two of them. They're yin and yang. When we're watching Matt struggle with something, the show often flashes to Fisk struggling with something, and we see them struggling side by side. Even though they're not actually together, we see them struggling back and forth with their own problems in a very similar way. And whereas when Matt's getting fed up with oppressing his vigilante side, which is the true version of himself, when he's getting sick of watching cops fail and criminals succeed, we're also seeing Fisk slowly slip back into his life of violence as he's getting fed up with people just trying to kick him while he's down. And even up to episode 6, where Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock, finally says, fuck it, I'm putting the suit back on, it then instantly flashes to Fisk, who says, fuck it, I'm gonna beat the shit out of this person that my wife slept with and give back into my violent tendencies. And it's very much a show where both characters are going through almost the exact same thing together, but separately. They both rose from the ashes like a phoenix and decided to branch off in different paths, but over the course of the show, they're forced back together, which is going to lead them on a collision course with each other, because now Wilson Fisk is a mayor that is pretty much killing people again and threatening to kill people, and Matt Murdock has now become Daredevil, who will never let Fisk do the things that he's doing. So all roads led to a good spot, in my opinion. Like I said, the last 2 episodes, I'll say, I actually really enjoyed. A lot of people didn't really like episode 5 because it was like this self-contained story that had nothing to do with anything else going on. A lot of people called it a filler episode, but I don't think it was a filler episode at all. I mean, to me, it felt like Inside Man in the MCU. It was really well done, and I think, yes, on one hand, it was part to connect Matt Murdock to the overall MCU and bring Kamala Khan's father as the banker into the show, but on the other hand, it was just another step at watching Matt Murdock convince himself that Daredevil is needed. Although Daredevil never was in the show, this was the first time that he actually became Daredevil, just without the costume on. He became that vigilante inside the bank, tricking all the bank robbers into thinking he was truly blind, only to like help the cops get the upper hand in saving all the hostages and taking out like a couple of the bad guys within the bank. So you kind of got to see him blossom into that Daredevil position again without the suit, only for in episode 6 to be the best of the season, where they brought in Muse to do something really, really vile, getting himself onto Matt Murdock's radar to the point where he's like, cops ain't gonna figure this shit out. I'm not gonna figure this out as a lawyer. I need to go back to being the man without fear, Daredevil himself. And that last 10 minutes was fucking perfection Daredevil. I love the moments in the battle, which, mind you, was filmed amazing. I was so worried after the first episode's awful CGI train wreck of a one-take fight scene. If you're gonna do a one-take, do it practically, not CGI. But here the entire fight scene was practical and it looked fucking great. Now, it wasn't in a one take, but it was still filmed so beautifully well. The choreography was amazing, and I love the moments where Matt is just in this enraged battle cry, and he's literally screaming at the ceiling in between beating the shit out of Muse. It's almost like a lion roaring to let out frustration. Like, it's just so primal and aggressive, and it's such fulfilling to watch as a Daredevil fan that's been watching Matt Murdock struggling with getting back to that point, struggling with watching him slowly come back to being Daredevil. It was just so satisfying at the end that I can't help but be excited to see where the show goes next. You also had that incredible stuff with Matt Murdock and Jon Bernthal's The Punisher, Frank Castle. That scene is one of the greatest interactions between the two of them we've ever gotten, where the Punisher was just saying these things that were so moving and so emotional. I was expecting them to have a fist fight, but it made sense why they didn't, but it also made sense why it was there, because Matt needed to hear that stuff to kind of further along his realization that he needs to be Daredevil again. And I'm just really excited to see what we got next. The next 4 episodes are going to be a lot of fun. It seems like they're hitting the ground running. They're not going to slow down. There's a lot of stuff to cover, so I got to imagine we're not going to have a lot more filler episodes, and it's going to be all action and drama from here on out. We still have the fight scenes that we saw, the behind the scenes photos leaked of him and Punisher fighting side by side, so that's really exciting. And I'm really exciting to see what's gonna come of Muse, because if you haven't read the comics, he is a sick motherfucker, and I'm really excited to see how they adapt one of his most iconic moments from the comics in this TV show, which I think they're gonna do, because they don't follow in the sense of giving him the same powers that he has in the comics, but in terms of like the same story that's going on, it's very similar to the comics, so I have no doubt that they're going to give us the same holy shit moment that we got in the comics in the TV show, and I'm so excited for you all to see that if you haven't read the comics. Anyway, at the end of the day, I like this show. I don't think it's perfect, but I'm going to give it, as of right now, a 7 out of 10. And if they nail these last 4 episodes, I could see this becoming easily an 8 or a 9. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you liking Daredevil? Are you tired of the reluctant hero trope like I was? Maybe you do like that, and I'm just crazy. I would love to talk about it in the comments down below. And as always, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch you next time.